is Friska of Fresh by Friska, and today I've got a very special guest from Vietnam, and his name's Andrew. Andrew, would you please do a quick introduction of yourself?
Hey, thanks, Friska. My name's Andrew Tran. I am a digital strategist. I work with brands typically to kind of help reframe some of the problems or some of the challenges that they're facing from a marketing business standpoint of view. And I look at ways of which we could ideate kind of problems and prioritize some of their needs. And I've got a methodology around it. So super happy to be on Friska's show. Hey, for anybody who doesn't know, Friska, that is her real name. I thought at the very beginning, I thought it was like Eminem or something like that. Like, yeah, I thought she had like a real name behind it. No, it's Friska. It is so cool. So for anyone who doesn't know, that is a really cool insight.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm very excited to have him on board because not only has he led teams through significant changes such as restructures, but he also has that international experience and also that cross-cultural sensitivity. So, Andrew, you've led teams before through quite disruptive changes. You as the leader, what were some key sort of actions that you took to inspire them to adopt faster or to help with engagement or team morale?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So one of the key things is really kind of knowing what your position and what your role is. So in my particular case, I was a manager. And so as a manager, you're really there to facilitate and make sure that the people around you, like the people that report into you, can actually do the role that they need. So once there's a big restructure that's occurring and where your scope is either widened or shortened, that needs to be firstly identified and then communicated. So that's the very first thing that I have done from a very kind of pragmatic type of way. Obviously, like every manager is different. Their personality is different. Some are very relaxed about it. Some of the people are a little bit more rigid around it. It's really up to you. But one of the things that it helped me was really like understanding what my role is as a facilitator, and then being able to help communicate that to my team and making sure that they get the support they need in order to really do the job that they've been kind of asked for to do, and giving them support. And also kind of, if you're in a large organization, really leveraging what HR has to offer when it comes to learning and development, when it comes to kind of other support techniques in terms of coaching or in terms of mentoring as well. I think that's really important, especially what's happening right now with COVID, with an economic kind of recession that is currently occurring both in Australia and other parts around the world. So really kind of leveraging that and being grateful is such a key thing around it. And so, as a manager, you're kind of stuck in a situation where you're reporting upwards. So you're managing up to some of your leaders, but also you're managing down in the sense that you're working with your team to make sure that they can deliver on time, on budget, but also kind of translate what they are trying to get out of in that role and still maintain the kind of foresight to try and help them get towards their goals as well.
Yeah, that is a really good insight, because managers and leaders, at the end of the day, even though they're leading teams, they're human, right? No one is born with the know-how on how to inspire and motivate people through change, especially one as disruptive as COVID. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out to your HR professionals, your change managers, your employee wellness experts. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure in Vietnam as well as in Australia, suddenly all the investments in all things digital have been green-lighted and accelerated. So what are the key changes and trends, especially in the digital marketing space? Because now digital marketing is even more important than ever. There's a lot more people online. So what are the changes that you're noticing?
That's a great question. Again, look, one of the big challenges one of the big things that have been changing is the behavior, like consumer behavior, online behavior. Nowadays, like you said before, everyone's staying at home, everyone's working from home. So therefore, the way of which marketers need to communicate to their clients or to their audiences, it's going to change a little bit. So therefore, what will happen is more research will need to be done in terms of really kind of understanding what is the hierarchy of needs, essentially at the end of the day. And this is like marketing 101. We would have learned this all in university, the hierarchy of needs, the Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Yep.
And really just going back to the basics, really understanding who your customers are again, really understanding their pain points, their needs, their wants, and really therefore from that research derive key messages from it to actually push it out. So that's one of the big things. Another one, like you said before, digital has been green lighted for a lot of things. However, like here in Vietnam, it's kind of been stop start type of moment. Like as soon as lockdown happened, there was this big acceleration and push to digitize everything. And you're seeing quite a lot of webinar events that are happening, quite a lot of more video type based content being published on YouTube, on LinkedIn, for instance. And, that's been fantastic. And then once we lifted lockdown here in Saigon, you're seeing everyone trying to go back to normal, and this kind of sudden stop in terms of momentum when it came to digital. And then now like we went back into it again, and now we're stopped and we're in this weird kind of limbo. So I think for a lot of brands out there who are in this kind of mode of change to move to digital, is to stick by it. It's quite a lot of investment that you got to put in. It's not like, oh, digital means it's going to be cheaper. It's not necessarily going to be the case, especially at the start when you got to invest in new equipment, new processes, and even training new people, right? So one of the big things that I talk about when it comes to problem solving from a team perspective is really looking at it from people, process, platform perspective, right? So when I talk about the people, do you have the right people that you need in order to deliver X, Y, and Z, right? And then afterwards, it's like, well, yes, we do have the right people. They've been in the company for so long, because now you're explaining as to why. But then also at the end, you're like, well, they may not have the particular skills. Great. So we have a learning and development budget. Can we help them, develop that skill? Like you see on the Udemy courses, like there are a ton of courses out there that will help you in terms of like minor video editing to creating like how to reposition certain words from an informational archetype perspective, and being really kind of thoughtful around that as well. So I think there's a lot of tools out there that you can use to kind of self-help, self-learn. And we were kind of talking about it before in terms of like classes, like people are willing to, jump on, extracurricular classes coming through, and to learn and to continually learn as well. So that's the big thing with people. Process-wise, everything needs to change now. If you're going to digitize, it's all about kind of reframing, re-looking at what process is currently there, and then removing certain elements and then putting it back together again. So basically you're looking at like, how do I, have the fewer amount of moving pieces in order to make this product or this function work as well as it should. So that's like kind of like a big thing with regards to process. And then obviously with platforms, like I just did a talk earlier this week around like, transforming the financial space. There's about in the MarTech space alone, there's about 8,000 different products and services.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's crazy, right? And so it's really unfair to actually have a marketing manager really understand all 8,000. So it really comes back down to like, as a vision, as a business objective, where do you want to go? Obviously that will change now with COVID, now that tourism has died down. So international travel, inbound travel has died down. So a lot of things have been affected. So therefore, the way of which you position your company and how you want to tell the story will also change. And so once you've discovered that and you realize that, and then really kind of look at what is the actual problem that we're trying to solve. I know, like a very simplistic one is about, we need more sales. Yeah, fantastic. But sales can come from everywhere. So if you try and reframe it correctly and really dig in and really interrogate the problem, you actually might find the challenge isn't necessarily on, we need more people. It's more like, oh, actually, we've got enough people coming through. We just need to convert them better. So if we understand that there's certain elements through the funnel, then it's like, well, how do we improve that so they don't fall out of that funnel? So making sure, and then therefore, once you kind of understand that, then the thing about the type of resources that you kind of need will be a lot more clearer. The processes that you kind of need will be way more clearer, and therefore when you start looking at investigating what kind of platforms we're going to use to support it, it'll be a lot more clear. And then you can work with your existing suppliers or potentially look for new suppliers when it comes to identifying what kind of platforms we need to integrate into your business.
I like how you've mentioned that it could be a case of retaining the current ones in your funnel, because in organizational changes, often the default position is our current people have to go, we need to get new ones in. It costs so much more to get new employees than to retrain, upskill your existing ones. So that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the big things that I kind of see is that, when you retain existing existing personnel, like they've already assimilated into the company. So if you were to get a new personnel in, like they're not necessarily going to be fully operational until about.
Of course they won't. It takes 3 to 6 months to escalate that time to productivity. Exactly. They have to learn the new systems. They have to learn the culture.
Yeah.
Okay. And my last question would be, given your experience, internationally and working with people of all sorts of different cultures, what are the biggest differences you've noticed between trying to lead people through change, whether they're in Australia or they're from somewhere else? So what are things you should be sensitive about?
Right. It's cultural sensitivity. So really, it's about developing relationship. And in Asia, developing relationship takes a lot more time. And, like to run a deal takes a lot more time. So think about if it's to run a deal takes a lot more time, going through change is going to take even longer. And for a lot of people, like especially in Vietnam, where I don't know the full statistics, but it's roughly about 30% of the workforce are under 30. So a lot of these kids, they've never really experienced a recession before. They've never really experienced change. And so that to me indicates that if you're a large organization, you're going through change, you've got to be very cognizant with regards to how you're going to approach your personnel and as you're going through that change. So being really kind of cognizant around the cultural aspects of it, giving a lot of time and effort on it, being very prescriptive. I think that's when I talk to like foreign CEOs, foreign leaders, when they're coming here into Asia, one of their big gripes is that, these people are blah, 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 blah. These people need to be prescribed, need to be this and that. And, if you take a step back, part of the reason why is the system of which they've been taught. They've been taught and it's a very Confucius type of element. So for any of your listeners who are not Asian, Confucianism is really kind of ingrained a lot in Asian culture as well, like whether or not you're Chinese or Japanese or in this case Vietnamese as well. So it's super important. So when you have this mindset kind of been indoctrinated into society for a millennia, it becomes a little bit difficult sometimes. It could be frustrating from someone from the West having to, who's very open and free flowing when it comes to ideas, be very kind of not vertical, horizontally kind of mindset thought to kind of then go, oh, I have to be very prescriptive. So that's why it comes back down to time. So it all comes back down to time, empathy, and just really kind of being as prescriptive, but not too prescriptive, because there's a fine line between being prescriptive and becoming too prescriptive where you're almost doing their job. And that's the last thing you don't want to do. So it's a bit of a fine balance. There's no real kind of way of doing it. You really just need to kind of get in there and get some bumps and bruises along the way, but you eventually
it takes time to build trust.
100%. I mean, here in Vietnam, like here in Asia, to like get anywhere, unless you're coming in with like some major backing or some major reputation, it takes at least a couple of years to kind of build your name through here. Because you know, like Asian people, you know, they're smart in the sense like they see these people come in and out all the time, and so that the trust, the apprehensiveness is quite high, and so to develop trust, it takes quite a long time, and so these kind of things happen.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for your time, Andrew. So if people want to reach out to you for more assistance with digital marketing, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So the best way to reach out to me is via LinkedIn. So if you just type in Andrew Tran, Vietnam, that will probably be it. Or jump on my website. It's andrewtran.asia.
Great.